Greetings and awesome morning. Welcome to the Fudge Factory. And what is the Fudge Factory? The Fudge Factory is a place where parents, educators, community stakeholders can come on in early morning to have deep diving conversations with a conglomerate of different perspectives, all about very critical education topics. Today is our first live episode on YouTube. And this particular episode of the Fudge Factory is for parents and families, always for educators. But today, we're going to be focusing on how to turn parents and families into instructors. The first part of that is creating an awareness. An awareness about what? An awareness about proficiency performance, where our students are in the larger picture. So at home, we as parents or family members can work to really help our students move forward. So again, I want to thank you for coming on into the Fudge Factory. Every episode, we start by getting in the mood. So welcome, and let's set the tone. Welcome back. You know, so often as parents and family members, we look at the statistics for our school. And we usually look at the absentee rate. We usually look at the graduation rate, particularly for high school. And we leave it there a lot of times. That is our gauge for how well the school is doing and how well our children inside of the school may be doing. But that doesn't tell the story. To really understand the story of the numbers, you have to first understand a word called proficiency. And what we'd like to do is create an awareness around proficiency. So, for this morning, I have a gentleman that is going to define proficiency for us. So let's take a minute and watch this pretty impressive fellow.
Proficiency can be defined and characterized by levels, scales, and cutoff scores on standardized tests and other assessments. It's important that you remember by levels. 2, students achieving or failing to achieve proficiency levels determined by tests and assessments. 3, students demonstrating or failing to demonstrate proficiency in relation to learning standards. And 4, teachers. Teachers being deemed proficient or not proficient on job performance evaluation. Let's go back to my statement that the American education system is a proficiency-based system. A proficiency-based system refers to the systems of instruction, assessment, grading, and academic reporting that are based on students demonstrating that they have learned the knowledge and skills they're expected to learn and that they're progressing through their education. What does a proficiency-based system look like? It looks like learning standards. Learning standards to determine academic expectations and define proficiency in a given course, subject, or area, or grade level. You'll experience these from state departments of education, school districts, and within individual schools. The goal of proficiency-based learning is to ensure that students are acquiring the knowledge and skills that are deemed to be essential to success in school, higher education, careers, and adult life. What happens when students fail to meet proficiency-based learning expectations? What happens when you have a specific group of students not meeting proficiency-based learning expectations? What happens when you have a group of students that share the same human characteristic, male, female, black, white, and that group that shares that characteristics are not meeting expectations? What happens when the group that shares that human characteristic is in a position of historical underachievement compared to other ethnicities or other groups? What happens when the achievement between ethnicities becomes unimaginably vast despite state, district, or school interventions? This is a good point to take a look at some real-time data and talk to some parents.
So welcome back. And yes, this morning we will look at some real-time data and break it down how we got to the data for a particular school through a pre-recorded interview with an awesome parent here in the Las Vegas Valley. So we're going to take a look at an interview with Mr. Eugene Staples, which represents the second interview or the second time that he and I visited data right here in the Valley for Clark County School District. And I want to put a caveat here. As we have these deep diving conversations, as we talk about schools, as we talk about data, in no way do we want to slight any of the hardworking teachers or hardworking administrators out there that are dealing with these particular issues with differentials between racial proficiency performance, ethnicity based stats that have a gross difference arranged between them when it comes down to the different subgroups, which in part are represented by the different ethnicities. So it is extremely important if you are a Hispanic parent, if you are the parent of a student that has an IEP, if you are a black parent or family member, to understand where to find the data regarding your child and the subgroup that they are identified with, and how you, as a parent or family member, can help raise the bar for achievement from the home to school connection. So let's take a look at this pre recorded session, which is the second session with Mr. Eugene Staples, that came from a within COVID conversation to a post COVID conversation. Let's check it out. Absolutely. And, that even brings me back to something you said earlier, because you mentioned planting seeds. And,
Yes.
I am very big on that whole concept of seed planting. When we talk to teachers, when we talk to administrators, specifically in schools that may be identified as in need of improvement, many times the school will identify what they call root cause issues as to why students
That's good.
may not be achieving, right? And if you go back, the root cause issues always go back to, if you peel the onion back on those, it always goes back to the home and the community. Well, that student can't read. That student does not have the disposition to be able to sit long enough to, or those type of things that you find to be pervasive if you analyze some of the root cause issues that are identified by schools and by districts. And you also really touched, no, I'm going to say you nailed the need for parents to have an awareness, not just parents, but community and stakeholders and teachers.
Yeah.
And I would even say administrators at times, to understand what we call the disaggregated data. A lot of times we look at the whole picture, the aggregated data, where you go to a website in a particular state. Here in Nevada is the Nevada Accountability Portal. You go there and you do some clicks and you can get the aggregated data. You see how your school is doing. You can see the overall graduation rate. You can see the overall proficiency performance for math and for reading, or for ELA for middle and high school students. But it doesn't tell the whole story. In fact,
Yeah.
it just scratches the surface, because everything you talked about, the need for connection, the relationship, all of that comes with a true awareness about what is actually going on for the kids that are being represented by the particular subgroups within the school. And you can only do that by going to disaggregated data. Last time we played a game where we looked at some disaggregated data. I pulled up some schools, Sierra Vista. We pulled up
Right.
Fox, and we looked at their disaggregated data, and we played a game where we looked at the highest achieving, and then we looked at the lowest achieving and the disparities between them. And we saw some real themes coming forward. I'd like to do something very similar. If you're willing to play with me, we can choose a school that you may want, or just spin the dial.
Yeah, no, no. Let's do that. Let's try a school that I may want, and I'm prayerful of what these answers or what these numbers are going to look like. Let's go with a high school that I know of in an area where I get a chance to serve, and it's called Liberty High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's show us how you do that,
Okay,
Dr.
so
Killens. We'd love to see that.
wonderful. So I'm going to walk everyone through. I'm going to switch here, and I'm going to have to go and do a share screen. Let's see, share my screen here. All
Okay,
right. And then and you see my wonderful intro there, huh?
that's
My
good.
notes there. Okay, and what I am going to do is go to, let's see if I just put it in here, that, If you
And it'll
go to
pop
your
up for you.
address bar and put
Okay, so welcome to the Nevada
Accountability
Accountability
Portal.
Portal. Are you still with me? Can you see me?
Oh yeah, we can. This is
Oh,
great.
all right. So you go to the Nevada Accountability Portal, and you're going to get this page that pops up. And I'm going to get rid of this here. And what we're going to want to see, and the years are always a year behind. The data is always a year behind. So
Okay.
we'll look at this. The current data would be, let's see, yep, 21, 22. All right. So here it says district. We'll look at Clark County. And then the schools, we should be able to find Liberty because they're all in alphabetical order. Ah, there it is. You press Liberty. And then what's going to happen is we're going to hit go. And what we're going to get are some aggregated data results. Okay.
Gotcha.
So
Overall.
overall,
Yeah.
so overall at Liberty, they have a 92.98, might as well say 93% graduation rate. Well, a 44.5% chronic absentee rate. And let's see, they spend about $7,185 per student. Their total enrollment this year is a whopping 3,283 students. Okay, so we can scroll down and get some information, right? We can get information that we just saw about how they fare against the state, how specific students will be doing in terms of, well, let me back out of that. We can see how they fare against the state with regard to the major categories that we listed up here and the number of students that may constitute this total enrollment. This only tells the surface, right? What we want to
Right.
do is we want to know what specifically do the kids that come out of our household, how are they performing? So we have to go to the achievement. And this is where it gets just a little bit strange. So you have to kind of go to the national results here. Let's see here. Let's see. Achievement. Let's see here. Click here. All right. And then we know that in high school, what they register are the 11th grade CCR, math, and ELA outcomes for the students. This will tell you their proficiency performance at the school. So you have to click that. Now, here's the thing that may get people a little messed up here. You have to go back down here where it says select, because we've already selected Clark County and Liberty High School, but we're going to turn this into schools. Before it said districts.
Right.
Now we're going to change it to schools, and we should be able to go to Clark again and find Liberty. And there it is. And we can move it over. And they're going to give us what the Liberty math and ELA scores will be against the state. But there will be another step. So let's get that report. So here's the report. So what we see here is that, and I'm going to move some of my icons around, the state here, the average for mathematics, the proficiency performance for math is 20.5%. So 20.5% of students around the state register proficient in math. And that's, you think about it nationally, you think about it globally, we have a lot of work to do nationally with all kids, right? But this is
Yes.
where the story gets very interesting. So Liberty High School is close to that with 19.3. They're below the state average, okay, for math. Now let's look for ELA. ELA it's the same thing. Well, they're over the state. The state has 45.2% of its students proficient in ELA. Now you think about that again. That's less than half again of the students proficient in English language arts. And Liberty High School has 48.3. Again,
This just tells you what liberty does against the state holistically. Now, what we want to do is find out through the disaggregate data how the ethnicity is going to break down. And I always add our IEP students also. So let's update this data and look what we found. Okay, so for the state, and let's just look at black students for the state. Black students in the state of Nevada have a proficiency
Oh
statewide
my.
in math at 6.8. Let's pause that. Black students have a proficiency performance percentage of 6.8 statewide. So if we wonder why there are very few teachers, but very few black teachers, very few black male teachers, well, this is an indicator of why. If we're not graduating students, period, and then students of color proficient in math and English language arts, we're doing a disservice to them as they go out in the world. 6% proficient statewide for black students is gross and needs to be addressed, not just at the school level, not just at the district level, but at the SEA level, state education agency level. And here in Nevada, that is the Nevada Department of Education. Now, can they do it by themselves? No. Can the districts do it by themselves? No. Can the schools? No. It has to be a collective of these organizations and a collective of the different faces that represent the faces of Nevada, not just white faces, not just Asian faces, but Hispanic, black, and white and Asian. We need to work together to resolve this issue. Let's keep marching forward.
Wow.
That's scary. That's beyond scary. That's grossly that will bring tears to any educator if they really knew how to get to this data. And then you look at the highest achieving peer, and that looks like it's going to be 44.0. That belongs to the Asian students. Now, who is below the black students? What category? It would only be kids that are identified as
As
having
IEP,
IEP.
learning disabilities. Yeah.
They have an identified special need that has caused them to have to get an independent education plan. So that's something. So that's statewide. Now let's look at Liberty High School. Okay, Liberty High School for proficiency. When you have a blank like that, well, that means none. And let's look at the highest achieving at Liberty High School. Let's see, it looks like it's going to be 29.4, and that belongs to two or more races. So mixed race, 29.4. Now let's look at this. Between the white, mixed race, and Asian, you're averaging the lower to upper 20s for proficiency when it comes down to mathematics. The Hispanic community is exactly half of what you would see with the lowest achieving. Black students did not register. Here is where we go even deeper. If you look here in this category where it says ED, that means emerging. These skills are emergent. They're below basic. They're emerging. They're just starting to develop. 39.2% of the black students at Liberty High School identify or registered as emergent. Now, if you look here with AS, that means approaching standard. 54.1% of the students are approaching standard. Let's stop there. Let's really understand that. For parents, for family members, for educators in the building, that is an even bigger statistic than the number of kids at Liberty High School that didn't even register proficient. Guess where they all are? They're all either emergent or they're just approaching standard. If 39.2% of the students that are identified as Black are emergent, and then 54.1 of those students are just approaching standards, that is your whole population of Black folk right there that were tested. That's important because that also gives you a clear indication of the type of interventions that should be happening in the school and in the home, which is why we're here. Let's keep going. That's scary because none of them meet standard, none of them exceed standard. Now
Yep.
let's look at ELA. And we know that the writing process and the reading process and comprehension and literacy that goes along with that is extremely important. How do these students perform on the ACT if they can't read well? If they can't perform the mathematics at the high school level that will get them to the next level? Well, let's see. The Black students in ELA, they are at 36.5% proficient. The highest achieving looks like they're at 59.2, which belongs to the white students. But if you look again between the Black students, the Hispanic students, you have at least 10 to 15 to almost 20 percentile points difference in where they register. And again, the story gets deeper when you look at the emergent skills, the approaching standards, who meets standards and how many, and then who exceeds standards. This tells us that there is a huge discrepancy, and it may be come down to culturally responsive teaching and learning, a culturally responsive relationship that can create a reciprocal agreement to how to push Black, Hispanic, or IEP students forward. And obviously, over time, that has been missing. If we were to disaggregate data going back 5 years, 10 years, you would see the same trend. So I think that understanding this type of mechanism that I don't want to say districts and schools use, but we have to understand this mechanism that districts and schools use. Because
Right.
if we cannot, as parents, go in and say, hey, we understand your graduation rate is 91 point this and that, but what does that mean for my child? And if my child, as a Black child, is able to get a diploma through the regular sequence of events at your school, looking at the disaggregated data, what does that diploma mean? What does that diploma mean? We've got an amazing amount of work to do. So, this particular episode, every Monday, parents and families to instructors will look at creating an awareness about the data. So for the next couple of episodes, we'll continue to look at the disaggregated data of various schools throughout the state of Nevada and various schools throughout the United States, particularly where the OUISN Equity Center is doing work. And what does that stand for? The Outlook University Independent School Network, OUISN Equity Center, which is the housing for the Fudge Factory. I want to thank everyone who took time out to join me this morning and have this deep diving conversation. We'll continue next Monday with another episode of Parents and Families to Instructors. But tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll look at seeds to roots, the opposite of the root cause analysis, and we'll take a deep dive into equity measurements in education. But for now, please have a productive and most pleasant day. Thank you all for joining me and hope to see you all tomorrow.